I eat that already? Man, I'm still hungry. This is Moonstone. The cool thing about Moonstone is that it has what's called azulorescence, which means it gives off a flash of color similar to a fine pearl, and some people describe the flash of Moonstone as pearly or opalescence. So only a small percentage of Moonstone rough is facet grade. The vast majority is cabochon grade. Facet grade Moonstone means that it will cut a clean gemstone, often called eye clean, and the gemstone will have a very good flash of color or azulorescence. One problem with azulorescence in pearls or gemstones is that the effect is unfortunately very difficult to photograph, but I'll do my best. These examples of facet grade Moonstone came from Malawi, and again, it's pretty difficult to find. I have been informed that the mining site where this Moonstone was found, unfortunately, is being shut down as the Malawi government is building, of all things, a prison on the mining site. But who knows? Maybe the prisoners will have an extra incentive to dig from the prison. Moonstone has a hardness on the Mohs scale of between 6 and 6.5, so you have to be careful when you're using it in jewelry. And I did make a video explaining the Mohs scale, and if you're interested or you don't understand the Mohs scale, just click the link and I'll explain all about the Mohs scale. Now, Moonstone is from the feldspar family, and as I mentioned, facet grade Moonstone is quite rare. These two pieces will be the first pieces of Moonstone that I've ever cut, and my fellow gem cutters haven't put a lot of information online regarding cutting or polishing of Moonstones, so I think we'll have to use a bit of trial and error in cutting these two gemstones, and let's get started. Both these pieces of rough are well suited to producing a rectangle or emerald shaped gemstone, so for a design, I'll just use two of my favorite rectangle designs from Arya Ackhavan, Fruity Candy, and from Jeff Rhonemus, Spellbound. These are my favorite gem faceting diagrams for emerald cuts. And if you've not ever cut these designs before, I would highly recommend you give them a try. Let's see how they work for facet grade Moonstone. Now, don't let the information on gem faceting diagrams confuse you or make you in any way afraid to try to use or understand a gem faceting diagram. They're not that hard to understand, and I did prepare two videos a while back explaining how to read and understand gem faceting diagrams. These are among my most popular videos, so if you want to understand the information on gem faceting diagrams, I recommend you take a look at these videos. Isn't this just a magnificent piece of Moonstone rough? For a rectangle or emerald design like our Fruity Candy design, I want to put the stone, the brass dop, into the index of my faceting machine and line up the stone so that the long sides of the stone are oriented at the 24 and 72 teeth of my index gear. Just eyeball it, and that's close enough as the stone's pretty well emerald shaped. Then I simply tighten up the dop retention screw, which locks the dop and gemstone in place, and now we're ready to start our cutting. Okay, I finished going over our Moonstone with my 12M lap, which is about a 1500 grit lap, and so now I'll go over it again with 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap and get it pre-polished. Coming along nicely. Okay, so I'm ready to start polishing the bottom half or the pavilion of this Moonstone. The problem is there's not any information online or any of the normal places I look at on what actually polishes Moonstone. So I'm sure that 50,000, 60,000 grit diamond on a bat lap would polish this, but if it's like quartz, cerium oxide on a tin lap will do great, or cerium oxide on a number of laps, but I right now prefer my tin lap. Cerium oxide would polish it if it's similar to quartz. If it's similar to garnet, aluminum oxide would be the oxide of choice to polish it. or several other oxides may work. I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything written from any other cutters who have faceted Moonstone and said what they polished with. So I'm going to give it a try with my tin lap and cerium oxide first. And if that doesn't polish it up, and I'll know pretty quickly, then I'll try aluminum oxide, and if not, then I'll try one of the other oxides which may work. And if none of those work, I'll fall back to diamond. But let's give cerium oxide a try. Okay, the cerium oxide, I polished the first row of facets, these two on this side and the corresponding two on the other side. And you can see it polished them right up, these facets. So these are not polished yet. This one is. This one's not. So cerium oxide worked great, and I guess I'll try on the other, maybe I'll try on the upper part, the crown, I'll try aluminum oxide maybe, or one of the other oxides, but cerium oxide seems to work. And there's a lot of oxides, and I use bat sticks from Gear Loose when I'm talking about oxide. Sometimes I can just buy the oxide and mix it with water in a spray bottle, but lately I've found it a lot easier just to use a bat stick. So this is a bat stick from Gear Loose. They're kind of like, you know, the old Crayola crayons. You have the, you just rub the end of it onto your lap, and it's in plastic. And if you need to, as you use your bat stick, I use a just an old pencil sharpener, if those things still exist, to sharpen the bat stick, remove the plastic outer end, so exposing more oxide. So again, this one's cerium oxide. They also make aluminum oxide, which I use an awful lot of also. Chrome oxide, which is green. Sometimes I use this. I find that it is useful. In some cases, it works the same as, I think aluminum oxide is what I found in a couple of gemstones. I haven't found anything where this is the only oxide I would go to. It's mostly cerium oxide or aluminum oxide. There's also zirconium oxide, which works on a number of stones also, but again, I haven't found anything where this is my go-to only oxide. So those are the oxides, the bat sticks that Gear Loose makes and sells. There is one other, and I don't have a cleanup one because I don't have a spare, just this one that I bought. Tin oxide. I've tested it out a lot. Haven't found any gemstone that it's my go-to oxide for. Again, cerium oxide is a go-to for a number of gemstones, and aluminum oxide seems to be the rest of them. And if either of those won't polish it up, then it's going to be diamond, like sapphire, ruby sapphire, corundum. These oxides won't work with that. So those are the oxides that I used, and I have tested out cerium oxide on a gemstone, and it works. So back to polishing the rest of the pavilion of our gemstone. Okay, I've started on the upper part, or the crown of our Moonstone, and working with the first set of facets, the 96 and the 48, to set the girdle width. And I'm using a 12M, about a 1500 grit lap. So coming along nicely. I have enough room to cut the crown, just barely. I had to make this stone smaller than I had originally wanted because of some fractures that I came across inside. I had to decide whether just to leave the fracture or get a bigger stone, or cut through the fracture and get a smaller stone but a cleaner stone. And I thought, since it's my first Moonstone, I want a clean one. If it's smaller than it would have been, that's fine. But now that I'm working on the upper half, the other thing that I'm seeing is that there's this bluish, kind of like if light blue that I'm starting to see through the stone. So I think I've got the color set right, so we'll see how that turns out. I'll continue working on the upper half of this stone. Okay, I polished the upper half of our Moonstone, and unfortunately there's a fracture that goes down right in the middle of the stone. The worst place, down the table. So I'm going to leave it. There's no way to get it out because it's so deep, and the stone's already, I made it so much smaller. So I'll see how the second stone does. This stone, it's going to be, I mean, it's a finished stone. It's a polished gemstone, but it's going to have that that inclusion right there. So I still want to see how the properties of the Moonstone show on a faceted stone. So I'll still get that out of the stone. So let me soak the stone in acetone, and then we can take a look at it and start cutting our second stone. Okay, I've got our Moonstone preformed on the bottom half, or the pavilion of the stone. So I've gone over everything with the 12, well, I've gone over the main facets that I need to work on with the 12M lap, which is about a 1500 grit lap. And now I'll go over everything with probably 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap. Okay, I finished up the bottom half of or the pavilion of our Moonstone with the Spellbound design. It's all looking good. Internally it's looking good, and everything is looking just fine. There's enough space to cut the upper half of the stone, plenty. So I'll transfer the stone now and start working on the upper half of our Spellbound Moonstone. Okay, I've polished the upper half of our Moonstone, and you can see that kind of iridescence throughout the stone, that play of light. So I still have to cut and polish the table, which is a small table. So I'll go ahead and set up my stone to cut and polish the table, then we'll see how the final gemstone looks. Okay, I finished cutting and polishing the table of our Moonstone. So now I'm going to soak it in acetone, and we'll take a look at our stone, and we'll weigh it and measure it and send it off to BOPIE. Today I cut 2 pieces of Moonstone, and this was my first time cutting this material. I just haven't run across it very often. Facet quality Moonstone is just very rare. Moonstone, a member of the feldspar family, cuts and polishes easily. Both stones polished right up with cerium oxide on a tin lap. I didn't experiment with any other polishing techniques. I just went with cerium oxide on the tin lap. Maybe I'll try something different later. The final gemstones are very unique because they display that agilurescence, which is like what you see on a pearl when it hits the light. Cutting Moonstone was a lot of fun for me, and I think you would enjoy cutting this unique material. The design, Fruity Candy, and the other design, Spellbound, are awesome designs, and both gemstones turned out well. So please let me know in the comments what you think of cutting Moonstone, as well as these designs. And as always, happy faceting, everyone.